Good morning everybody, it's me, Mr Corrigan. I'm going to be doing some videos about different things, but today we're going to start with reading. So I'm going to read you a story from this book about ancient Greek myths, which is what Primary 3 have been doing as part of their topic for Term 3. And unfortunately, due to circumstances, we've had to cut this term short, but I'm hoping that perhaps in some way we can try and keep going with the ancient Greece topic. So I'm going to read you another story from this book. If you're in Primary 3, then you'll have heard a lot about certain characters from ancient Greece. This story is a continuation of Odysseus and his adventures. It involves a horse, a wooden horse, from Troy. Maybe you recognise the story, maybe you don't. What I'm going to do is I'm going to read it aloud and then I'll film the book just as it is with the words so that you can read yourself, if you can. As usual, use different strategies to try and work out words that you don't understand or don't know. Okay? Enjoy. The Adventures of Odysseus. Odysseus sat slumped on the beach and stared out across the shimmering sea. In the nearby camp, outside the city walls of Troy, he could hear his Greek soldiers grumbling. "Oh, it's no good. We can't win this war," growled one. "We've been here for 10 years. 10 years! I vote we give up and go home," said another. Odysseus groaned himself. "They're right," he thought. "It's 10 years since I left my beloved wife Penelope and little son. 10 years since I left my island kingdom of Ithaca to fight in this war. All those years since Paris, the Trojan prince, captured Helen, who is said to be the most beautiful woman in the world, and took her to Troy." He groaned again. 10 years ago, the Greeks, led by Odysseus, had gathered together an army and a great fleet of ships. Some said there were 1,000 altogether. They had sailed to Troy to rescue Helen and bring her back to her husband. Although they had fought fierce battles with the Trojans and many had been killed, they could not break into the city of Troy. Odysseus stood up and went in search of the other leaders. "The soldiers are getting restless. They want to go home," he said. "We can't give up now," replied one king. "I have an idea," said Odysseus, and he told them his plan. The wooden horse. For many days the Trojans watched from the tops of their city walls as the Greeks collected huge piles of wood on the beach. They sawed, chopped and hammered it, while the Trojans wondered what the Greeks could be making. Then one morning, as the Trojan guards on the walls looked down at dawn, they were amazed to see that the beach was empty. The Greek camp and all the ships pulled up and the beach had vanished. Nothing was left but an enormous wooden horse. "They've gone! The war is over! We've won! We've won!" the Trojans shouted. They opened the city gates and rushed down to the beach. They stared at the wooden horse, walked all around it, tapped it. "Why have the Greeks left this?" one man asked. "It must be a gift for the goddess Athena," replied another. "We'll take it into the city." This is a picture of the wooden horse. The Trojans dragged the wooden horse into the city square. That evening they had a huge party with masses of food and wine to celebrate the end of the war. Then they sang and they danced until at last, tired out, they went to bed. When the whole city was quiet, the wooden horse creaked and a secret door opened. Inside were 10 Greeks. "Don't make a sound," whispered Odysseus to his soldiers and let down a rope. They slid down it, ran silently through the city, knocked out the sleepy guards, and opened the city gates. In the night, the Greek fleet of ships had sailed back to Troy and the army was waiting on the beach. When the gates were opened, they rushed into the city. Before the Trojan men could get out of bed and grab their weapons, the Greeks killed them. They rescued Helen, made the women and children their slaves, stole all the treasure, and set fire to the city. Odysseus' plan had worked, and the war was over. At last they could go home, taking Helen with them. The Greeks divided the Trojans' treasure between them, loaded up their ships, and joyfully rowed away from the ruined city of Troy. Odysseus and his men set sail, and in a great storm which lasted for days, became separated from the other ships. When the sea was calm again, they were all alone. They sailed on, stopping at islands where sometimes the crew had to fight battles to escape, and sometimes were welcomed and given food and water. Storms drove their ship across the wild seas and past rocky shores where they couldn't land. When the wind dropped, they had to row until they were too tired to go on. Thank you for watching and listening. I will now do another video where I will record the words and you can follow them and read them yourself.